Then there was today's other big story. Trump's attorney general was in the spotlight, testifying in his first ever hearing before the House Judiciary Committee. Lawmakers spent months seeking Attorney General Barr's testimony. Today, he was questioned for nearly 5 hours on everything from politics at DOJ to his involvement in the release of the Mueller report. Barr and GOP members of the committee were mainly focused on defending the presence of those militarized federal agents in Portland, where protests have been underway nearby the federal courthouse ever since the death at police hands of George Floyd. Barr insisted the building is under siege.
In the wake of George Floyd's death, violent rioters and anarchists have hijacked legitimate protests to wreak senseless havoc and destruction on innocent victims. The current situation in Portland is a telling example. What unfolds nightly around the courthouse cannot reasonably be called protest. It is, by any objective measure, an assault on the government of the United States. Federal courts are under attack. Since when is it okay to try to burn down a federal court?
Customs and Border Control tells NBC News it is sending more agents to Portland. Last week, Attorney General Barr and Trump announced that more agents would be dispatched to places like Chicago and other cities dealing with a rise in crime this summer. The Judiciary Committee chairman, New York Democratic Congressman Jerry Nadler, wanted to know if Barr had ever discussed the deployments in the context of the upcoming election.
Have you, now, yes or no, have you discussed the president's re-election campaign with the president or with any White House official or any surrogate of the president?
Well, I'm not going to get into my discussions with the president.
Well, have you discussed that topic with him, yes or no?
Not in relation to this program.
I didn't ask that. I asked if you discussed that with...
I'm a member of the cabinet and there's an election going on. Obviously, the topic
so
comes
the
up.
Yes.
Well, the topic comes up in cabinet meetings and other things. It shouldn't be a surprise that the topic of the election comes.
I didn't say I was surprised.
Barr also said he thought there was a high risk of voter fraud with mail-in balloting and that we should assume Russia is trying to meddle in our upcoming presidential election. In two notable exchanges, the Attorney General was asked directly whether asking for foreign election interference was okay and about the possibility that Trump might refuse to leave office if he loses in November.
What will you do if Donald Trump loses the election on November 3rd, but refuses to leave office on January 20th?
If the results are clear, I would leave office.
Do you believe that there is any basis or legitimacy to Donald Trump's recent claim that he can't provide an answer as to whether he would leave office?
I really am not familiar with these comments.
In April of this year, the Republican-led Senate Intelligence Committee unanimously found that Russia interfered with our elections and attempted to undermine American democracy, correct?
And I said so too.
Is it ever appropriate, sir, for the president to solicit or accept foreign assistance in an election?
It depends what kind of assistance.
Is it ever appropriate for the president or presidential candidate to accept or solicit foreign assistance of any kind in his or her election?
No, it's not appropriate.
Okay, I'm glad. Sorry you had to struggle with that.
We also learned today what Attorney General Barr has not been focused on of late, beginning with the recent tear gassing of a Navy veteran during the protests in Portland.
That video is of Christopher David, a Navy veteran, being beaten and tear gassed by the officers. Do you think that was appropriate?
Well, I didn't see him tear gas. Seems to be gas in the area. I don't know what kind of gas it was, and I don't know whether it was directed at him.
Are you aware that in May, the president tweeted, and I quote, "Mail-in voting will lead to massive fraud and abuse. It will also lead to the end of our great Republican Party," end quote.
I wasn't aware of that tweet.
Can a sitting U.S. president move an election day?
Actually, I haven't looked into that question under the Constitution.
Are you familiar with the December 3rd, 2018 tweet where Donald Trump said Roger Stone had shown guts by not testifying against him?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
You don't read the president's tweets?
No.
And Chuck Rosenberg, back into the hearing room today as you are unencumbered by a New York Times byline. Can you please tell us how far from normal that testimony was for a sitting attorney general, his struggle, for instance, on the question of foreign assistance in our election?
Yeah, if anyone ever asks you, Brian, whether you can accept foreign assistance, the answer is no. It's not a hard question. Title 52 of the United States Code makes it a felony to do so. Not from a foreign person, not from a foreign government, not from a foreign corporation. You know, what really troubled me was that the Attorney General seems to answer everything very legalistically. And that sort of makes sense for an Attorney General, but, you know, that's just the floor. It's not enough. The fact that something might be lawful doesn't make it wise or appropriate or sensible. If you ask the Attorney General, for instance, can the president pardon friends and allies? The answer is sure, of course, the Constitution permits it. But that's not a sufficient answer. There has to be something more. You would expect the Attorney General to also be talking as the attorney for the nation, that things that are legal are not always appropriate. And that was the problem today.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.